Hello RE learners, this is part 1 of a 3-part skills series. In this part, the focus is not on detailed content, but on developing a compliance skill, commercial interaction analysis, and classification of a commercial interaction. As we work through the lesson, keep your focus on the basic analytical skill. Do not move ahead into the FAIS regulatory environment yet. The aim here is to train your ability to classify interactions correctly. When we talk about the economy, we're really talking about exchanges. People interact to exchange value that has been created, and they do this through different market options. Let's start with a benefit. A benefit is the actual outcome someone receives. It's what makes a difference to them. It might satisfy a need, reduce effort, save time, increase security, or improve their ability to do something. Created value happens when access to that benefit is made possible, and access can be provided through an item, a facility, or even a contract. Economic value only comes into play once that access can be transferred. In other words, when the right to control and the right to use the benefit can be assigned or exchanged between parties. Now let's look at the hierarchy of benefit options. If you hold the use option, you have utility value. That means you personally enjoy the outcome. If you hold the control option, you have service value. You decide who gets to use the benefit. If you own the control, you have product value. You decide who controls the use. In simple terms, you control the controller. So what is a product really? A product is just a vehicle for transferring a benefit. It's the arrangement that transfers ownership of control over the use option. Take something like a vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner itself is not the real benefit. It's only the transfer mechanism. The real benefit is the outcome: a clean space, time saved, and less effort. That saved time and reduced effort is the created value, and that is what the buyer is ultimately paying for. The market value lifecycle is a powerful loop with 3 steps: create value, offer value, and accept offer. The first stage is, quote, create value, where a product is produced, defining the mechanism for value transfer. This involves designing the benefits and structuring the product arrangement. This is the role of the product producer and establishes the distribution relationship. The second stage is offer value, where the product is taken to market through an offer for sale. This is the role of the marketer, who can be the producer, a retailer, or a sales broker. This stage creates the market relationship between the marketer and the buyer. The final stage is transfer value, triggered when the buyer accepts the terms. This establishes the value relationship between the producer and the buyer, governing the exchange of market value and monetary value. The law regulates 3 key retail relationships: the distribution relationship between the producer and the marketer, the market relationship between the marketer and the buyer, and the value relationship between the producer and the buyer. Commercial functions are performed in value, market, or agent roles. Commercial interactions are analyzed using 4 key factors: the capacity of the marketer in the distribution relation, the marketer's control of buyer's options in the market relation, the timing of benefit exchange in the value relation, and the capacity in which the economic function is performed in the commercial role. The distribution relationship exists between the producer and the party that takes the product to market. There are 2 main forms: direct and intermediate. In a direct distribution relationship, the producer offers the product directly to the market. The producer and the marketer are the same party. For example, Best Bakers bakes the bread and sells it directly to buyers. In an intermediate distribution relationship, another party takes the product to market. This can be a retailer or a sales broker. A retailer owns the product and then resells it. For example, a supermarket buys bread from Best Bakers, owns it, and then sells it to buyers. A sales broker does not own the bread. The broker simply brings the offer to buyers on behalf of Best Bakers. For example, a broker takes orders from buyers for Best Bakers bread, but the bread remains owned and supplied by Best Bakers. The key point for classification is whether the producer goes directly to market or whether an intermediary stands between the producer and the buyer, and in what capacity. In a traditional market relationship, there is no transfer of control. The buyer chooses the product and completes the transaction themselves. For example, a mother chooses a 2-liter Coke and buys it to share with her family. The retailer does not decide on her behalf. With a discretionary relationship, the buyer gives transaction control over. This means the marketer is allowed to make certain decisions within agreed limits. For example, a receptionist orders assorted pastries and allows the bakery to choose which specific pastries to include. In a custodian relationship, the buyer appoints the marketer to hold the product on their behalf. For example, a restaurant keeps a bottle of whiskey that a guest has bought and stores it for the guest to use later. The value relation focuses on the timing of benefit delivery and payment. With a spot benefit exchange, the exchange happens immediately. The buyer pays and receives the benefit at the same time. For example, a lady buys Albany bread, pays for it, and takes it home straight away. With a contractual benefit exchange, the exchange is structured through a contract. The benefit may arise now or only in the future, depending on the terms. A retiree purchasing a funeral policy will only receive the benefit when the insured event occurs. Or a family may pay up front for a 12-month software license and receive access over time. With a credit exchange, the benefit is received now, but payment is made later by the buyer as per arrangement. For example, a student buys a fridge and pays for it in installments. The economic function can be performed in one of commercial roles: value, market, or agent. The value in the value role, the function performance, is within producer capacity. This is where value is created. For example, best bakers bakes bread. In the market role, the function performance is within marketer capacity. This is where value is offered to the market. Marketing can be standardized, such as a grocery store displaying Albany bread on the shelf. Or it can be subjective, where someone actively highlights features or benefits, such as a salesperson explaining the nutritional value of the bread. In the agent role, the function performance is within a non-producer, non-marketer capacity. The agent acts on behalf of another party with regard to a non-marketing function. For example, Macro facilitates repairs with Sony for a television that is still under warranty. Macro is not the producer but assists in carrying out the process. To analyze any commercial interaction, we look at the three relationships: distribution, market and value, and the commercial role. Classifying these elements accurately allows us to link the interaction to the correct regulatory framework for compliance decisions. Watch Part 2 next, where I will show you how to use a decision tree to analyze a commercial interaction step by step.